Hello. I've just been to watch 1917. Sam Mendes' new film. Holy fucking shit. It was fantastic. That's the end of the review. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye. Wow, what a film. I've been looking forward to this for a little while since I found out. I saw the trailer for it a while back and it just looked like a generic war movie, period war movie. And I was like, we got another one of these incoming. And then I found out one particular fact about it, which was it's set up essentially to be a single shot, or as close to it as possible, narratively speaking. The film, it's been filmed in such a way that there's no edits. It's supposed to look like one continuous take all the way through. It's not quite true. There are a couple of breaks in the story for narrative purposes. However, for all intents and purposes, it feels like one long continuous shot. And it's so good. It's so good. So the basic premise of the story is two young lads in the British Army, already serving overseas, are selected for a special mission, and they have to deliver orders. They have to find a battalion on the other side of no man's land to deliver orders to stop an attack as they're walking into a trap set by the Germans. One of the lads is a little bit more young and a little bit more naive. However, he's motivated by the fact that his brother is effectively in danger as he's about to go over the edge over the top with this battalion that he needs to reach and deliver the orders to. So his motivation is he needs to go and save his brother. The other soldier is a little bit more weary and a little bit more cynical, as he fought on the Somme, I believe it's mentioned in there. So he's a little bit more cautious and a little bit more pessimistic from his point of view. However, orders is orders, and the story basically is that it's them getting from one side of no man's land to another side, to the other side, to go and deliver these orders and essentially stop an entire regiment from getting wiped out. I think 1,600 men's lives is on the line throughout the course of this. And it's intense, man. It's really fucking intense because, like I said before, it's shot to be one continuous flowing take all the way through. It essentially puts you in the trenches with these two fellas. You're there, and it just it creates, like, as the film progresses. I don't really want to go into the specifics of like certain scenes and stuff like that, because this is a film that you have to experience. Every now and then a film will come along which is less about less about trying to tell a story and more about making you experience a story. And this is absolutely one of those pieces of cinema that you experience rather than you watch. you actually participate by watching it. You take part in the experience that the protagonists are going through in this film, and it's really kind of, at times it's really intense, and other times it's really claustrophobic. Other times it is a bit of a roller coaster that you go through, and it's not pleasant experiences, as you can imagine. You know, we're dealing with sights and sounds of war here. You know, we're seeing dead bodies strewn across no man's land, and you're seeing dead animals, and, you know, rotting carcasses, and, you know, buildings that have just been decimated, and all of this kind of stuff. And it's a really, you know, if you let yourself get absorbed into the film, it's quite harrowing at times. And you know, I remember, like, when I was watching the fellas go over the top and go through no man's land, and some of the things that you see, and the camera doesn't really linger on anything because it's following the guys as they're trying to, you know, navigate their way across the field. But you see enough, and I was reminded of kind of like the more in your face, overt kind of horrors of war that you get to see in the opening of Saving Private Ryan. And I was sat there and I was kind of struck. I was like, you know, we're not seeing people get their legs blown off, although that does happen in the film. But, you know, we're not seeing people walking around trying to retrieve their arms like we do on in the opening of Saving Private Ryan. But what you are seeing is you're seeing soldiers who have been killed going over the top, left in a field to rot. You see pieces of bone just, you know, sticking up through the mud. You see teeth, a jawbone maybe, you know, in the mud as they're wading through fucking craters that have been, you know, left from mortars exploding and all this kind of stuff. And it's a much quieter level of horror that you're actually seeing. You know, the actual, yeah, I was struck by that a little bit more. And obviously, you know, Saving Private Ryan's been around for years now, and it still is a really affecting piece of cinema. If you go back and watch the Omaha Beach landing, it still does the job. You know, you understand immediately what those guys went through. But with this, it's more, just how quiet it is as the guys are going over the top. You know, it's just these two lads going over the top to try and cross no man's land. And because, you know, there's no machine guns going off over, there's no crackle of machine gun fire going off over the head, it's just these two lads, and the absolute atrocities that these guys would have seen. It sticks with you a little bit more, it lingers in your mind a little bit more, and you kind of understand a little bit more, maybe on a slightly deeper level, of just how fucking horrifying that would have been to actually go through. Yeah, I mean, fucking absolutely phenomenal film. It really is. I'm still kind of like, you know, reeling from it. The film is absolutely gorgeous to look at. It's directed by Sam Mendes. You know, there's a very interesting thing going on between Sam Mendes and Christopher Nolan. I think there's a little bit of healthy competition going on between these two fellas, because they are probably the only two kind of like directors that are working in Hollywood at the moment that are making films on this scale, which are more cinematic driven experiences as opposed to the summer blockbuster kind of experience, if that makes sense. The more traditional filmmaking, if you know what I mean with that. I absolutely have to go and watch this in IMAX. I just watched this at a regular, my local Cineworld in Bolton. But luckily enough, it was on the biggest screen in there. And I believe this has actually been shot in IMAX. So I've got this week off now, so I'm absolutely going to go and watch this at the Printworks. But I believe Star Wars is still kind of got the lion's share of screenings at the IMAX. But yeah, I'll definitely be going and watching this, because even watching it on traditional 2:35:1 aspect ratio, knowing that it was shot on IMAX and seeing the kind of film that it is, like I've just been talking about how it's a film that you experience, and the way it's been shot with the single take kind of gimmick there. I mean, that's so I found that so immersive just on a normal cinema screen. I can only imagine what it's like when your entire kind of peripheral vision is taken up by the size of a proper IMAX screen. So yeah, I think if you're able to, definitely go and try and check this out at the Printworks and watch it on a proper IMAX as opposed to the phony IMAXs that are going around at some of the smaller cinema venues. Yeah, so between Sam Mendes and Christopher Nolan, I feel like there's a little bit of a healthy kind of cinematic rivalry going on. Obviously Christopher Nolan did Dunkirk. That was his take on a war film, but it was still a very Christopher Nolan type film where it was playing with time narratives and stuff like that. Sam Mendes is not so much bothered about the timey-wimey aspects of filmmaking that Christopher Nolan is. But I feel like certainly on a technical level, these guys are definitely playing tennis with each other. There's obviously direct comparisons you can draw from, Christopher Nolan makes Dunkirk, and it's a war film that's done by and large for real, lots of extras, real locations, minimal use of CGI, shot in fucking IMAX, and is a cinematic spectacle. And Sam Mendes watches that and he's like, let me see what I can do with this. Hold my beer, I'm gonna have a pop at one of these. And then he goes out, makes a massive film, hundreds of extras, real locations, minimal use of CGI from what I can tell. Nothing certainly stood out in the way that's obviously computer generated, or that is, or CGI has obviously been used at certain points to help mask the blends between camera shots. Some of them are more overt than others, and some of them are red herrings, I feel. But Sam Mendes has obviously seen Christopher Nolan, and what he's done with films like Dunkirk, and he's like, okay, my turn. And it feels like this is his riposte, this is his reply to Christopher Nolan. Some people I've seen online, some people have been comparing the rival, or saying the rivalry goes back a little bit further, saying that after The Dark Knight, when Nolan did The Dark Knight, Sam Mendes kind of modelled Skyfall from that and said that that was his version of The Dark Knight. I can kind of see it. Some of the theories online, or some of the comments online, maybe stretch the actual credulity a little bit too far, but I can see where they're coming from. But it definitely feels like there's a healthy rival. Both British directors, both love kind of like shooting practical where practical's needed, and actually love the form of cinema to the point where they shoot on film. It's all done in camera, all that kind of stuff, and it feels so good. I'd love to see where if there is any truth to this kind of creative kind of competition between the two directors. I'd love to see what Sam Mendes does after Tenet comes out, because that's looking amazing. But yeah, I mean, this absolutely blew me away. And I'm not one for war films, because I feel like we've seen enough of them now. We kind of understand, and I was kind of wondering what's left to say about war, especially when we're looking back on World War One and World War Two. We what else is there to be said? Well, as it turns out, quite a fucking lot with 1917, because as big and as epic as it is, it feels like a small movie, because you've literally over the shoulder of these two guys, as they journey into Mordor, as it were. It's literally, two guys on foot going from point A to point B. And it starts out big and epic and massive, and all too aware that it's trying to hoodwink you, because, like I say, with the single shot thing, there are a few kind of hidden edits in there which are absolutely red herrings. You're kind of like, oh, that's where they no, it's not, because then you see another point along the way and you're like, oh, that's where they joined it, and then you're like, oh, is it? So the film plays with you at certain points when it comes to the editing there, and I was having fun actually, just sitting watching, trying to find where the hidden edits were, but then the film kind of sucked me in. The narrative of the film sucked me in, so I actually stopped looking for the edits and started just kind of like going on this journey with these guys. And as I say, the film starts off big, and then partway through it streamlines itself and becomes more focused, and then starts having certain bits of kind of introducing certain elements of humanity in there, and being a little bit more reflective, and having something to say. And by the time the film actually gets to the end, you feel a sense of, you kind of feel like a sense of relief that it's over. That tension's with you pretty much all the way through. And I felt kind of, when the film did come to a close, I felt kind of a relief, and I felt there was a sadness with it, but there was a sense of relief as well. And it was just kind of like, wow, it's so, I'm running out of kind of hyperboles to actually describe the film with, but it's such a good film. I can't stress that enough. So yeah, what else do I want to bring up? Oh, speaking of Sam Mendes, going off on a tangent, the trailer for No Time to Die, that was on the front of 1917. Now obviously Sam Mendes directed the last two Bond films. He's not directing this one. It's being directed by Cary Fukunaga. If you don't know who that is, he did season 1 of True Detective, I think it was. Yeah, something feels really wrong with this Bond film. Something feels off, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. There's just something off about this. I mean, the terrible title aside, PlayStation 2 Bond game title aside, something just feels off about this. And I don't know if it's the change in release date, because this is coming out in April, and traditionally Bond films normally come out around about October, November time, but we shall see what happens. So yes, 1917 is definitely a huge recommend, so go and check it out, watch it when you can, I think you'll enjoy it. I certainly did. Holy shit, January has had a great start with movies so far, with this and Jojo Rabbit. So go and check it out and let me know what you thought in the comments. And that's it. I'm home now, so that's the end of the video. That's how these things work. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very soon with something else. I don't know what else is coming out. Oh, don't forget to check out Untitled Film Podcast. We've got our Rise of Skywalker episode coming out soon, hopefully. Well, by the time you watch this video, it'll be out there. So, Untitled Film Podcast, check that out. Thanks very much, guys. I'll catch you soon. Bye.